Welcome to a new planetary and seismic update. A quick overview of the geometry that we had in the previous time frame. This is a quick recap. I also discussed this in the previous video. We had Venus, Sun, Saturn on the 18th, followed by higher lunar peaks on the 18th, 19th. An obvious convergence of planetary lunar geometry on the 22nd. I discussed this in detail in the previous update because of the major earthquakes in Venezuela and also in Japan. And then we had a convergence of planetary and lunar geometry from the 25th to the 27th. I discussed this in detail in the previous video of the 10-day overview from the 18th to the 27th. Let's have a look at the seismic activity that we did have in this time frame. Earthquakes with magnitude 5.5 and larger, that's what we specifically look at, the stronger earthquakes. We see a small cluster of stronger earthquakes peaking 6.6 in Kamchatka, following the peak with Venus here and Saturn and the Sun, and the higher lunar peaks on the 19th, 20th. Then for almost 4 days nothing much happened, and then we had a huge cluster of stronger earthquakes, especially here on the 24th, the major earthquakes in Venezuela and also Japan within half an hour. Really crazy what happened there. Notable 5.5, 5.6 in Northern California. That's actually where the increase started. And it continued into the 26th, 27th, peaking 6.5 Mindanao, Philippines, and also 6.1, a notable strong earthquake in Hindu Kush region, Afghanistan. This temporal clustering is very typical, and this is what we see most of the time associated with planetary and lunar geometry. If you ask a seismologist how often does a magnitude 6 earthquake occur, they will tell you every 2.7 days, but that's an average. So you can average out this temporal clustering and you will come with averages, but averages do not reflect reality. What we see here is much more the reality. Clusters of stronger earthquakes followed by quiet times. This is much closer to reality. This is what we see most of the time, and we refer to this as temporal clustering of stronger earthquakes. Okay, let's go on to the next time frame. We have a convergence here on the 29th, 30th with a full moon and lunar geometry primarily on either side of the full moon. And we see Venus here with Earth and Neptune in a 45-degree angle. This is Venus-centric, not so critical as the 90 degrees or the conjunctions, but it is converging here, and that may amplify electromagnetic harmonics. Let's have a look at the solar system, what's happening here. We see that Earth is about to line up with Mars and with Uranus. That will be on the 4th of July. I'll come to that in a minute. We have the moon making 90 degrees with Neptune and with Saturn, Venus making 45 degrees with Earth and with Neptune. We have the full moon here, and also Mars and Uranus making 135 degrees with the moon. And this is all happening in a very short time on the 29th and 30th with the full moon right in the middle. And if you look at the SGI graph again, be on watch for potential seismic peak here on the 30th, around the 30th, give or take 1 day. That's possibly the time of the strongest seismic activity. It very much depends on the stress levels in Earth's crust, how strong the seismic response is going to be. It is not like the planet and the moon replace the plate tectonics. That's not the case. Earth has its own geological processes, but the positions of the planets and the moon, they complement the geology on Earth. And when a fault section has reached the tipping point, specific positions of the planets and the moon will trigger a larger earthquake. So what we do here complements traditional seismology. Okay, it's not an attempt to replace it, keep that in mind. Okay, so around the 30th, and then we have a high lunar peak because the moon will be in opposition with Jupiter and with Mercury. There can be a seismic response there around the 2nd, maybe the 3rd if it arrives late. Then we have a convergence, and this is where we see Earth, Mars and Uranus on the 4th of July, converging with lunar geometry, in opposition with Venus, and also Venus in a 45-degree angle with Earth and Saturn, and there's additional lunar geometry in there. So let's have a look at the solar system, how that convergence looks like. We see 45 degrees here with the moon and with Saturn, and we see now a 90-degree angle with Mars and Uranus at the time that Earth is in alignment with Mars and Uranus, and that can result in a pretty strong shake, like mid-6 magnitude. That's definitely possible, maybe even higher 6, in the worst case scenario magnitude 7. And we also see the moon in opposition here with Venus, and Venus making this 45-degree angle with Earth and with Saturn. So this is the second notable convergence in this time frame, and we could see an obvious seismic response, maybe some temporal clustering as well, later on the 4th or the 5th of July. Then we have lunar peaks towards the end of this time frame on the 6th and the 7th of July as the Moon conjuncts Neptune and Saturn here. That can result in a seismic response. Again, it depends on what happens in this time frame. Is there still critical stress along faults, larger fault sections that could result in stronger seismic activity? It is also possible that nothing much is going to happen towards the end here with these lunar peaks, but if there's going to be a seismic response, it's probably here on the 7th, later on the 7th and on the 8th of July. This is what we're going to have in the coming time frame. Check out the latest updates on the website and also in our social media. Stay safe everyone, and until next time.